Hi, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do the tubular bind-off. And here I'm working in a 2x2 rib, and I'm going to swap out those stitches to work the 1x1 rib and then work the tubular bind-off. So I've switched to my smaller needle here, and I'm going to show you how to swap the stitches on that last part. For a second, I got to change needles. Got to work with the smaller needle here. So you'll knit the first stitch, and then we need the second stitch here, which is a purl stitch. So bring the yarn forward, insert your needle in the back of that second stitch, just slip them off, and just insert the needle back into that first stitch, and then place the second stitch back on the left needle, and now it's the first stitch and it's ready to purl. So you can purl that stitch. And then the next stitch is a knit, so just knit that one. Purl, it presents as a purl, so you're okay here. Knit, and then we're going to swap this one out because we need the purl. Pop that back on. And you just keep going like that till you get to the end. Whoops. End of your round here, and then I'll show you how to work the tubular bind-off. So now we've swapped out the stitches and we're ready to begin the tubular bind-off. And this is going to be, we're going to work 4 rounds. And for the first round, we're going to knit the knits, and then the purl stitches here, we're going to slip them with the yarn in front. Okay, so we're going to knit the first stitch, and then bring the yarn to the front and slip that stitch purlwise from the left needle to the right needle. Knit the next stitch, yarn forward, slip the purl stitch purlwise on from your left needle to your right needle, bring the yarn back and knit the next stitch. So you're going to do this all around this entire round, all the stitches, whether you're working a cuff or a collar, whatever it may be. And then I'll work this round, and then I'll come back and show you what to do for the second round. Okay, so for this one, we're going to, with the yarn in back, we're going to slip the knit stitches purlwise from the left needle to the right needle, bring the yarn to the front, and you're going to purl purl stitches. Yarn to the back, slip the knit stitch that presents as a knit stitch purlwise from left needle to right needle, bring the yarn forward and purl the next stitch. Yarn back, slip purlwise, yarn forward, purl. So you can pick up a pretty good rhythm doing this, and you're going to do this around the entire cuff or collar or whatever you're working on. And once you're done this round, you're going to work the round 1 and round 2 again. So you're going to have 4 rounds, because in double knitting, 4 rounds will actually only equal 2 rounds, because you're only knitting the knits twice and purling the purls twice. So let me get that done, and then I'll show you how to do the sewn bind-off. So now I'm done those 4 rounds for your tubular bind-off, and we've got a nice little tube forming there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a sewn bind-off. But before I do that, I like to just kind of have a look at my work, and you can see here, this is where I swapped out those stitches. So the stitch looks a little elongated. So what I like to do is I just take my needle and I just adjust the tension on that, and then just ease it into the next stitch, and then it'll look the same. So you can do this all around. I'll show you again here. Just grab the leg. Give you a good look at this. Just grab the leg opposite to the one next to there's the V, and that leg's too long. So let's just pull that one a bit to shorten that leg, and then ease it into the next stitch. And even if you have to do it over a couple, and then it'll be the same. I've already done these. Then they look pretty much the same, and you can't tell where you swapped out the 2x2 for the 1x1. And now I'll show you how to do that sewn. So now the pattern will usually tell you to you're going to have to cut your yarn from that's attached to the skein. So you're just going to, I like to just wrap it around 3 times, and I just do that loosely. It's better to have too much than not enough. You could even go 4 times. And then we're going to snip that off. I probably left myself too much here, but that's okay. And let's put that on a darning needle and we'll be good to go. Now we're going to start the sewn bind off. It's also referred to as the Italian bind off. So what we're going to do is these first 2 stitches here, every stitch has to be worked twice, but these first 2 stitches we're going to work a little differently. So you can do one of 2 things. You can work it and then slip it onto your right needle for the first 2 stitches, or if you're new and you might forget, let's just put a locking stitch marker on that one stitch and do it again on the other stitch, just so that you don't forget about those stitches, because at the end you'll have to do something else with them. So now we've got the yarn on the darning needle and we're ready to go. So this first stitch here, you insert your needle knitwise into the stitch and pull that yarn through. And you can just, my pattern will usually say just to slip it onto that needle, onto the left needle, and you'll work it at the end. But for this, just so that I can show you, you would just slip it off. And this stitch here, we're going to work again at the end, okay? Okay, for the second step, we're going to skip this stitch that has the stitch marker on it, and we're going to go into the knit stitch. But this time that knit stitch, we're just going to purl it. Insert the needle purlwise. And don't do like me and get yourself all tangled up. But we're not slipping anything off, because remember I said if you've inserted it purlwise into a knit stitch, we're not removing it. So now you're going to go to step 3. So step 3 is going to be, you're going to insert your needle into this first stitch, which is a purl stitch, and you're going to slip it off this time and pull your yarn through. My pattern would also say you could just slip this stitch onto there, but we're just going to leave them on here so that I can show you what to do with them at the end. It's a little bit easier that way. And now we can move on to step 4. So with step 4, you're going to bring your yarn to the back of your work, and you're going to insert your needle in between these next 2 stitches from the back. And you're going to go into the next stitch and insert it knitwise and out the back. And now we'll be ready to repeat the sequence. Okay, so now the sequence, now that we're done these little setup here, the sequence will be the same. So you can see this one here has a column, in case you ever have to put this down and you forget where you're at. So this is a knit stitch, okay? So, and it's been already worked once, so we're going to insert our needle knitwise and pull the yarn to the back. Just pull it through. And you can slip that one off your needle. And I like to just adjust the tension, but don't make it too tight, because then your cuff will be too tight. You can always adjust this at the end. The next step, step 2, is you're going to skip this stitch and you're going to insert into the next knit stitch purlwise and pull the yarn through. And now you're going to go to the first stitch and insert your needle purlwise, and this time you're going to slip it off. Now you come in from the back, insert your needle, pull it through, and knitwise into that stitch and out the back. And basically you just keep repeating that sequence. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I get to the end, and I'm going to show you what to do with those other 2 stitches. So now we're getting near the end of the round here. So what we're going to do is keep working in pattern in the sequence. So this one, we're going to knit it or insert knitwise and slip it off. Step 2 is go into this stitch purlwise, into the first stitch purlwise, whoops, and slip it off. Come in from the back, into the stitch knitwise and out the back, and now we have the last 2 stitches and those first 2 stitches left. Okay, I normally leave these, just slip them onto my other needle, but I'll show you how to do it this way. I'll show you how to do it both ways. I'll do it this way first. So we're going to insert the needle knitwise and slip that stitch off. Now we need to get this stitch, so we're going to pretend that that stitch is up there on the needle, and this one was already slipped knitwise, so we have to insert our needle purlwise and then come back and slip this first one off purlwise and off the needle. And then we can take that stitch marker off because we're done with that stitch. And for our last stitch here, you're going to make sure that this stitch isn't twisted. So we already slipped it purlwise, so we're going to slip it now knitwise. And then you can take this locking stitch marker off and you're done. You just need to adjust the tension on that a bit. And I usually just go in and weave in the stitch in the back here, and it just pulls it shut. Okay, so I've undone this now and just put those last 2 stitches. These were the 2 stitches that were on the stitch marker. I've just put them back on my needle, and so you can work the last 4 stitches as you would normally. I just find it a little easier to do it this way, but a lot of people like to use the stitch markers because then they remember that it's the last 2 stitches. So insert knitwise and slip it off, and this is one of the last stitches that was slipped, or it went in knitwise and you slipped it off, and now this time you slipped it from your left needle to the right needle, and now you're going to go in purlwise and leave it on, and you're going to go purlwise into that first stitch and slip it off. So now this one has been worked twice, so now you're going to come in from the back in between the 2 stitches, and you didn't do this when the locking stitch markers were there because you had already dropped that stitch off. So now you're going to insert knitwise, pull it through, and you can slip both these stitches off the needles. And there you have your tubular bind-off with the sewn edge, and it's got a fair amount of stretch. And here's what it looks like on the finished sleeve. And this was the hem that was also done with swapping the stitch and a tubular bind-on or cast on. And also I also did the collar like that. So you have a beautiful finish. I hope this video helped you, and if it did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.